Welcome back to The Real Story. Now it's time to turn our attention to an intensifying standoff between President Trump and Nicolas Maduro, the head of Venezuela. They've been in a tense battle ever since the beginning of August, when Trump doubled the award for his arrest to $50 million, accusing him of working with drug cartels to flood America's streets with fentanyl-laced cocaine. And now the tension between them is expected to rapidly increase as the U.S. government prepares to deploy 3 warships to the waters off the coast of Venezuela. 3 U.S. Navy destroyers, the USS Gravely, USS Jason Dunham, and USS Sampson, are set to be sent to patrol these waters in a months-long operation aimed at countering drug cartels in the next few days, although further details of the plans remain classified. But White House officials have confirmed that this move is part of a broader campaign to dismantle cartel operations that perpetuate violence in U.S. cities. And Maduro responded to the news swiftly, mobilizing over 4.5 million militia members all over his country. In addition, Venezuela's government deployed its own drones and warships to monitor the country's coast on Tuesday, following the news about the looming deployment of U.S. warships, a move which also comes after the Trump administration sent thousands of Marines to the region just recently. So now, looking ahead, this situation raises all sorts of questions about the future of relations between the U.S. and Venezuela, as well as the U.S. government's fight against transnational crime. Could it finally force accountability on regimes that export chaos? Or could it escalate into a broader conflict under the guise of drug enforcement? With Maduro's allies indicted and rewards mounting, the Trump administration's strategy signals a rejection of past appeasement, prioritizing American lives over diplomatic niceties. Yet, as Venezuela stonewalls and deploys its forces, we're all left pondering the risks to regional peace in a world where socialist strongmen align themselves with narco-terrorists. So here with reaction is U.S. Navy veteran and candidate for Congress in the state of Texas, Commander Jay Furman. Commander, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Riley. Thank you for having me.
So this is a very interesting move, and I want to get your thoughts about it, sir.
Yes, sir. We're seeing geopolitics play at the edge of the knife right now.
Absolutely. My question for you then is, do you think this is going to be effective?
Well, absolutely. Strategic deterrence is really the leading edge of that knife, or spear, as we call it, tip of the spear. And without that big stick, held ready on our shoulder to wield if, and God forbid we have to, but it's the credible threat that makes that strategic deterrence important. The Navy is our preeminent force to do so. And so, yes, the current array of power on display for Maduro to look at from his hideout, as he is hiding in his own parapets, is critically important. He can bolster all he wants. At the end of the day, he knows he's an isolated narco state that tried to undermine us in the use of total warfare, sending all forms, drugs, tren de Aragua, what have you. He's fully wrapped into that business, that trade. Whilst what's under our ships is one of the biggest oil reserves in the world. And he's malnourishing his nation in this current economic policy, which is terrorism, and it's in our interest to do what we're doing.
Absolutely, and I think that's the thing people need to understand is that this is the last case scenario, right? This is not an ideal situation by any stretch, and taking physical force, mobilizing the U.S. military, is something of a last resort that reflects the severity of the problem we're dealing with. Drugs like fentanyl becoming one of the leading killers for Americans between the ages of 18 and 45. It is truly an epidemic, and we know where it's coming from. We have an idea of who's trafficking these substances into the country. So now we're all waiting for some real accountability for the people who are pushing this poison into America, and it all goes back to people like Maduro, which brings us to the arrest money, the reward for his arrest. What do you think about that strategy?
Well, it's worked in the past. In our global war on terror, we had entire playbook cards of top leaders that we were trying to roll up and that were heads of the snakes. Here no less. Latin America is really of recent, outside of Trump's efforts, and he did a great job as first administration making overtures to South America. And here again, he's doing it, I think, very effectively. Just look at Ecuador and some others, Guatemala. Yes. The entire that southern half of our hemisphere really was a funnel into illicit trade into America, and that was really the big game. It's going to be hard to sever those ties that really undergird their economies as they try to shift to a sustainable economy that doesn't bring the crime, doesn't bring the death and destruction of their actual communities that always attended our border as our corrupt politicians brought in, or the end, the tail of that snake, if you will, and you kind of wink, wink, and look the other way as they're welcoming, new American citizens with drugs on their backs. So all of that has to be severed at the head. So what we're doing with Maduro and his bounty is absolutely spot on. We don't recognize his legitimacy as a president. He's stolen the election every time he is supposedly been in power there by an elected government. But we know it's not that. He is one of the most dangerous things to America south of our border, and he's being used by Russia and China, and certainly those cartels that are trying to hold out and that are battling right now for control. But he's really one of the biggest mafioso of the bunch.
Well, and to think so many leaders in America have just let this drug problem fester for years and years without real action is just abysmal, shameful, heartbreaking. To think of all the lives that have been lost to this crisis is truly gut-wrenching. So I hope when you go to Washington, should you win your election, you can turn things around, get this country back on the right track, and clean up America's streets once and for all, sir.
That's what we're going to do, Riley. I'm going right at one of the tails of that snake. That's Henry Cuellar, 21-year incumbent in District 28. The worst with the Texas border, hauled in more drugs, guns, money than any other place. And he voting 95% with the Biden regime in the height of the broken border that really created the demand signal for the Maduros of the world. We're going to cut that tail off.
Okay. It's music to my ears, sir, and thank you for your time today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Riley. Take care. God bless.
Coming up next, we have star of the Netflix docuseries The Tiger King, Joe Exotic, joining the real story from a federal penitentiary. He's got some horrific allegations of sexual abuse at the hands of the prison guards themselves, so you won't want to miss it. More details after the break.